Welcome, everybody. This is Marc with Cam Investor Solutions, Wealth Advisor and Chief Investment Officer with the firm. Thanks for joining us today. Today, we have my good friend, Erica Johnson with Ambler, Keenan, Mitchell, and Johnson, also here in Denver, Colorado. Just some background on Erica. She is an estate planning attorney and a partner with the firm, and I've known her for many years, and she's helped a lot of advisors like myself in the area perform a lot of specialty work in the estate planning arena for clients now and hopefully for the future as well. So welcome, Erica.
Thank you. Thank you.
Erica, your firm, before I jump into some of my questions, I thought it'd be good to have you on because obviously you know a lot about this area. You've had a lot of experience in this area of not just broader estate planning topics, but a lot of things I think that have been really related to current events in the last several years. Before we jump in, maybe just share with our audience a little bit about your firm, some of the specialties that you all offer to clients and some of the things you do on a regular everyday basis.
Sure. We are a 3-attorney firm. Again, the name of the firm is Ambler, Keenan, Mitchell, Johnson. Beth Mitchell and myself are the partners at this point, and we have an associate attorney by the name of Chris Scolari. He's been with us a year last week, so we're glad to have him on board. We are in Denver, and we all three practice in 3 areas. One would be estate planning, wills, trusts, powers of attorney. The other would be probate, where when somebody passes away, if the court needs to be dealt with through a probate process, we'll often help a family member or whoever's in that role through that process if they wish. And the other is what we call trust administration, and that is we don't serve as trustee, but if a friend or family member is serving as trustee, we can represent them and help them through that process when somebody has passed away. So those are the 3 areas that we practice in. We don't really dabble in anything else. We don't believe in dabblers and dabbling. We think it's kind of a bad idea. So we really concentrate in those areas and then try to know attorneys in other areas that are kind of tangential to what we do.
Perfect. That's great. Thanks for that background on the firm and some of the understanding of the former and the new. So that's great. As we all know, it goes without saying, 2020 has been a new year for all of us. You know, none of us are health experts. I don't have a crystal ball. You know, I don't think you do either.
Nope, it broke.
Yeah, but I think when it comes to advanced planning with the estate planning topics, there's a lot of things to cover. But before we jump into some of the more recent areas of what's going on in the world, I thought we'd take a step back because back at the end of 2019, there was something that was enacted called the Secure Act. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that impacted a lot of areas, not just for things that perhaps you help your clients with, or we help our clients with, but things that I think are really relevant to a lot of people. And with everything going on, I feel like a lot of that got put to the back of the line for good reason, but there's things that I think it's important for folks to remember. So maybe, since that was enacted, what are some of the biggest changes to estate planning that you've seen as a result of that?
Yeah, the Secure Act is a pretty huge deal when it comes to what you do and how you set up things for clients, as you know. And what we do as far as when somebody dies, the world has changed completely with regard to how, if they have a retirement plan, and quite frankly, most people do, of some type, how that's going to transfer to the next generation. So in kind of big picture world, if you are leaving a retirement plan to your kids, let's just say as an example, okay, it used to be that your kid could take that share of the retirement plan that you left them and open up a inherited or IRA with you, and they could take that money out of that IRA over their life expectancy. So if I'm 50 years old, I don't know life expectancy charts, 35, 40 years, maybe, I could spread those withdrawals out, right? And being a child of someone leaving me their IRA, that was helpful because you could invest that money, keep it growing, and I didn't get hit with income taxes all at once. Now with the Secure Act, if we're leaving a retirement plan to a child, there are some exceptions, okay, but I'm going to just start with leaving it to a child. They don't get to take it out over their life expectancy. And this country is about to see a really huge tax hit that a lot of people are not aware of. if my dad leaves me an IRA or part of his IRA, hopefully no time soon, but if he passes away, when he passes away and leaves me that, I don't get to take it out over my life expectancy anymore. I have to take it all out, my share or whatever it is, within 10 years. And people say, well, I don't want to. And it's like, you don't have any choice. Okay. I don't have to take it all out in 1 year. I don't have to take it out in equal parts for 10 years, but I better empty that thing within 10 years. So what I've done is the government, Congress has condensed all that, forcing me to take it out. It's not the taking out is the problem, right? It's that it's taxable when I take it out. So now I'm going to increase probably my taxable income every year as I take it out. It might even put me into a higher tax bracket for 10 years. I don't know. Depends on how big the thing is. There aren't a lot of ways around this. There are some kind of more advanced planning, but it's something we need to look at with all of our clients and how they want to deal with this. There are exceptions to the 10-year rule. Spouse is one, disabled person is one, minor, your own minor child is another exception. They get more of this, what we used to call stretch. But for most Americans, leaving it to your adult kids who are not disabled, we're going to be hit with a 10-year payout. And the government's going to do what they wanted to do, and that is make a whole bunch of money. And, you know, they could change this, but they just have to spend a bunch of money. So I'm guessing this isn't going away anytime soon.
Right. You know, that those are really good points. I think that it's for those who feel like they don't need to plan or do anything for themselves. These are things that they're probably going to see a lot of us, right? A lot of people that have or will, for plan purposes or not planning for it, inherit assets that may drive the tax bill up if they're not prepared. So I think those who think that might happen to them, or there's a chance of it, should probably anticipate this or plan ahead just in case. Taking it a step further, thinking about some of the more, you know, families and individuals who have maybe larger estates, higher net worth, assets that they know they're not going to spend down.
Mhm.
You know, so in light of the Secure Act, in light of some of these considerations around taxes potentially being higher or impacting, what can they be doing from a planning standpoint in terms of maybe passing that wealth on? Obviously, the IRA rule, it's hard to get around, but other areas maybe around, you know, gifting, charities,
Right.
set up trust in certain ways that might be able to, you know, minimize this potentially. Anything around that that might be top of mind.
I think charity is a huge thing here. And that is, you know, if I can now if I'm going to give charitable gifts at my death, it becomes even smarter now to leave IRA or retirement plan money to a charity, because my kid's going to get nailed with taxes if I leave it to them. Whereas I could take that bucket or some of that bucket and leave it to charity. The beautiful thing about charities, qualified charities, they don't pay income taxes. So if I'm going to give to charity anyway, why not take part of my retirement plan, give it to a charity, a donor advised fund that I've set up, or specific charities? It can go directly to charity. It doesn't have to be all fancy, okay? You can just get with Marc, change the beneficiary, and leave some or all of that to charity. You know, some people would want to replace that money because they feel like they want to leave more to their kids. If they did, they can get a life insurance policy if they're insurable, right? So Marc, you can say, yeah, we're going to replace this money with life insurance, leave the IRA to the charity, get some life insurance on you if you're insurable, and leave that to your kids instead. So there are ways. I think charity is a big one. Gifting while you're alive, still available. If you have a taxable estate, currently the federal estate tax limit is $11.58 million a person, but that is going to change as well. It will for sure change in 2026 and settle back down somewhere around $6.5 million a person. And some would say that it will change even faster than that. If Congress wants to change it, they can change it. So I'm not going to sit here and try to guess what Congress is going to do. And I try not to do that because I think it's just frustrating for people. But anyway, there are ways to plan around, and charitable giving, getting your assets out of your estate while you're alive, also other opportunities.
Okay, no, that's a good point, and I think we'll come back to some of those comments in a few minutes on some of the current events related considerations. One other area I think around that's top of mind, or involves a lot of our audience, potentially our business owners. Whether you're a founder, whether you're a partner, whether you're someone that has an equity stake or potentially has to think about planning for the future. While you can't necessarily get your hands dirty with the structure of a business, from an estate planning standpoint, what are things that you often help your business owner clients with when it comes to, succession planning, beneficiaries, maybe some of the other tax considerations, especially if his estates are pretty large? Anything there that should be kept in mind for an owner who has a legacy or a family to consider?
Right. Well, if we're looking at a taxable estate, again, over the estate tax limit, if someone is planning to transition or sell their business, they'd want to start really early talking to their tax person. I'm not a tax attorney, nor am I a CPA, but we work in conjunction with a lot of those folks, and you need to talk to them about what's my tax hit going to be, and is there a way to deal with that upon the sale? You can't have a sale inked and then do a lot of the things that need to be done. It's too late. You have to start really early with any succession planning, really. But if in the next X number of years, you want to sell your business, it's time to start looking at it sooner rather than later. Because again, it can be too late. I had some people last week, they said, well, we already signed a deal with a buyer. And I said, well, you can't do any of this fancy trust planning around selling your estate to put off cap gains and all that. It's too late. So I would say really first, involving a good tax person, planning early. And then on a more simple level, if you're a business owner and let's say you're the only owner of the business and you die, okay, or you become incapacitated, they're having a base estate plan of a revocable living trust can make things so much easier than if you have a business and you die with a will. Because if you die with a will, no one can sign anything on behalf of that business until they go to court and get appointed by a judge and do a probate. Probate isn't the end of the world, but it is a delay. It takes time, okay? So if I'm a business owner and there's no one who could sign on behalf of my business and I die, I have done nobody a favor by not having a revocable trust that avoids the probate. It just gives somebody power a lot faster.
Right.
So, even at that base level, when I'm looking at a business owner, I'm generally saying there might be a better reason to have a trust for you.
Right.
Than
And I think also it helps, I think if I'm correct, it can be less contested, right, with the trust than the will sometimes. If there's multiple beneficiaries, children of maybe a parent or other factors to consider. So no, I think the trust, like you said, does give more control or more clarity probably.
Yep.
Coming back to that comment again, I'm not going to hold you to election related items because I don't get involved in that either. But you mentioned the 2026, the sunset and maybe changes that could impact a lot of things, not just in the estate area. But in light of the election, which, I think unless you've been under a rock, it's, when it's coming next week. And given some of the more common estate planning strategies you provide for your clients, are you considering maybe some planning ahead of time right now, even though that's still 6 years away for some of these families you work with that have maybe larger estates or will have, with likelihood, larger estates? Are you doing anything different right now for more advanced planning?
Yeah, some people, I don't think we're at a year-end panic at this point, but whenever we're faced, and we faced this before with a potential lowering of the estate tax, 2010, it was set to go down to $1 million, and that was a big deal. As we have a higher limit and we're set to go to a lower limit, I think it's worth consideration of, if there are assets that are helpful, that assets that we can get out of someone's estate or things like that with, I'll call it more fancy trust planning, okay? I think it's worth considering, You have to have the right kind of assets. You can't just get rid of things magically, okay? I guess you could spend a bunch of money, take a bunch of trips, but no one can go anywhere right now. So the spending it all before you die is harder right now. But yes, I think it's worthwhile if somebody is going to have an estate tax, taxable estate, at $6.5 million. They might want to look at some options now.
Okay. No, that's good feedback. I think people don't maybe not be thinking that far ahead, but if it's an opportunity potentially, I think it's always a good idea to have in the back of your mind. So good feedback there. Shifting gears a little bit to the current environment. I see you're in your office. I'm back in my office. When I started doing some of these, I was in my basement bar, and anywhere I could find a quiet,
Right.
when my little one or the dogs weren't barking up my ear or joining me on the calls.
Yep.
How are you continuing to help your clients?
Mhm.
In terms of, obviously, I'm sure virtual, but how are you continuing to help clients in this environment where maybe you can't meet with them as frequently as you normally have in the past?
Yeah, at our firm, we are not doing any initial consultations in person. It's for their safety, our safety. We're doing predominantly, we're using the phone for those things. And the only meetings we are doing in person at this point, we're still able to do signing meetings in person. When it comes time to signing actual documents, we're very paper heavy in our world still, okay? You can't, I know you can close on a home mortgage with electronic signing. You can't do that with an estate plan. So we're kind of the last people on the earth here, really, that still need a paper signature. But we're doing our best to limit the people in the office. And when we're signing, we're masked and we're distanced. Okay. I mean, I know some attorneys who are signing estate plans in their parking lot, literally, but I have not gone that far. So we are making accommodations to help people continue to do this. It's obviously top of mind for a lot of people. And I think we can still do it safely and still get the process done. The phone is not that, it's actually understandable, right? If we can speak English, which is what we try to do at our firm, is just speak common English. I don't mean English, the language. I mean understandable. If I can make this understandable, which I think all of our attorneys here can, we don't have to be face to face. We'd like to be, but we can't be, so we make it work.
Right. Do you feel that's good to know? Do you feel that the environment, the pandemic, has caused more activity, more people to think about the estate planning topic than ever before, or have you not noticed any big change, perhaps?
I kind of find this interesting. I think, yes, it has. There's a yes and a no. Yes, it has caused more people to worry about it, think about it. But I'm telling you, procrastination is still king. And so while I hear, oh, isn't your business way busier? People are worried about it. People are thinking about it, but they're not doing anything about it.
Right.
It's just human nature. I'm not blaming anybody, right? We all procrastinate. I do. We all do. So it has increased our business some, but not as much as one would think.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've heard similar, and even our industry, I think it's a little bit of that too, where you have folks have
Yes.
put things on pause, acknowledged it, or have said, you know what, I've got to get off the bench or off my couch, and this is still gotta be addressed and taken care of, given the situation. So I agree. I'm always curious to hear what others are experiencing. So
well, the whole thing is exhausting. Dealing with the pandemic, and it's hard to add one more thing, and I think that's part of it. I mean, everyone is, it's more exhausting to live this way, right? So your energy can only go so far, and sometimes that's put to your family and your kids and your whoever, right? So I don't blame people for their lack of moving forward, but eventually folks will get around to it.
right. No, I agree. One question I had for you, I'm curious as well to kind of hear what other experts in different fields are, and this might relate to needs as well in the estate planning front. We've seen a lot of clients either considering or have actually relocated, maybe to other states from Colorado or to Colorado, because job implications, flexibility, lifestyle. There's a lot of things people are thinking about. Given, let's say, folks are thinking about or have relocated from another state, just to what with Colorado, what are some of the things they might want to think about when it comes to estate planning, whether it's changes, reviews of their documents, kind of what's top of mind or what should be top of mind for those folks?
Yeah, most attorneys are only licensed in the state where they work. I mean, obviously, there are some attorneys who are licensed in multiple states. I will tell you, our 3 attorneys here are licensed only in Colorado. So if I have an existing estate planning client that moves somewhere else, Texas, wherever, I cannot continue to represent them. So I tell my clients, if you're moving, you need to take what I've done for you, take it to an estate planning attorney there and have it reviewed. It's not that the minute you move across the state lines, it's invalid, okay?
Right.
But it is important that you have it checked, because a lot of it, or all of it, is based on Colorado law. It all says this is governed by Colorado law. It is all signed in compliance with Colorado law. And so unfortunately, moving state to state often causes a need to update your estate plan and update it quite a bit, okay? It doesn't have to happen the minute you move there, but I really think that's important. And the same is true as people move into this state. If they have an estate plan from somewhere else, quite frankly, I'm often going to look at it and say, we need to update most of it, if not all of it. I can't amend, or won't amend, I guess I should say, will not amend another attorney's trust from out of town, okay? It doesn't work, which is frustrating to people, okay? But it's a bad idea for me to amend a document I didn't write. So as frustrating as it is, the short answer is, you move states, you need to get it reviewed, and then take or leave the advice of the attorney who looks at it as to what needs to be changed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I know not my own situation. We were that way. I moved from Texas to Colorado, and I hadn't done anything since I was single, and I've been married. So things change, things evolve, and so that's a good point on all levels. So thanks for that feedback. Couple last questions. You know, beyond relocation, I think one thing, and you mentioned it earlier, there's so much on people's plates right now, right? Schedules have been disrupted. Jobs maybe have been disrupted or adjusted. You know, schools, all these things are in play, and it does feel like days are longer. I think most people would agree with that. If you had to say, look, this still is an area that we all know is important. If you had to tell our audience, what are just some of those top 2 or 3 things that everybody should be doing right now, whether it's because of the new laws that were enacted, or because of the pandemic, or just more than likely they should just check in on, what would those be that they should put their energy and time into?
I'd say if you have an estate plan, you should go to the attorney who did it for you, if they're still practicing, and do a review, okay? At our firm, we're big on reviews. I'd say if you haven't had it reviewed or looked at it with that attorney in 3 to 5 years, you should be doing that, okay? If you don't have an estate plan, you should be getting one, okay? Simple as that. And it's not as complicated as people think. It's very intimidating. We don't know what to know. We don't know what to ask. We don't know. That's not your job. It's just like with you, Mark. I don't know how you do what you do. I have to rely on your expertise. So I tell people, like at our firm, we do a free initial consultation, free hour. We send out a questionnaire. We ask people to take a shot at it so we can use our hour smartly, okay? But now we can sit on the phone and talk about, what is your situation? What is it you need? What are your options and how much do they cost? We do a flat fee for estate planning. So it's not this big mystery of, oh my gosh, how slow does Erica type and how much is this going to cost me? Nobody moves forward on estate planning until they know what their options are and what they cost. So that's handy. I think like with you, it's not a big mystery what they're paying for.
Right. No, that's great. And I think in terms of things, you know, through next year, we'll kind of see how it all plays out, with not just potential law changes or other impacts, but the duration of everything. Is there anything else that maybe, if you had to tell our audience beyond just right now, anything else that you think about sometimes and you see that often isn't practiced or isn't done by clients, what would that be? Beyond the reviews, beyond just, you know, talking to your family about different topics, what else is often missed that should be addressed? Like, you see a lot, I know.
Right. I'd say 2 things pop into my head there. One, if you have an estate plan, do the people that you have appointed, do the people know where it is? And not just where it is. I mean, you don't have to tell them all the details. Okay, where it is important. But do they know where your accounts are? Do they know how to get into your computer? Do they know logistics? And people, I get a question every week. Well, how does my family know where all this is or about me? And I kind of chuckle and I say, if you haven't told them, they don't know. Right. I mean, I can't tell them for you. We try to help our clients by giving them some tools, but the bottom line is have it all written down, get it all somewhere on paper. Because when somebody dies, you can make their the person you've left in charge, you can make their life very hard, or you can make it a little bit easier. So that's one big one. And the other, again, is basically things will change. You may need to change your estate plan over the years. Like you said, life changes. That's good. That means you're alive and you're competent and you can change it. Okay. To me, that's a good thing. And I'm not saying we want to have to change it all the time, because that costs money. So don't get me wrong, but you do need to stay up on these things. They cannot sit in a drawer for 20 years and still be right. They just can't. Look at that as a good thing, again, that you're alive and competent and everything's trucking along great and you can fix it.
Right. No, those are two great, I think two great points to end on. I mean, the latter, obviously, because of procrastination and just not updating it, but that one about making it easy for your executor, or whoever's going to, benefit from the estate, and finding those, because that's something I'm dealing with 2 of those cases right now, and the families are lost right now, and it's taking time, and it's been very hard in many ways. And so I think that one, especially right now, and with all the digital and the technology, innovation happening faster than we can even breathe, I think that's a really significant one. So Erica Johnson, thank you so much for the time. This has been fantastic. Our audience, I know, will enjoy this, and we'll have to have you back again soon to get some updates and see what happens here with some of the potential upcoming months and year ahead.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate your time very much.
Thanks, Erica. Talk to you soon, everybody.